Hey friends, come on.
It's time for the show.
It's M-A-D-O.
The CM Hangout, hosted by CatholicMom.com.
Hey everyone, and welcome. This is Erika Marie, and I welcome you to another CatholicMom.com CM Hangout. This is our number 23, and today I'm so excited. We're talking all about books and how much we love them, and this is one of my favorite topics, and today I'm really looking forward to having my two friends from CatholicMom.com join me. Perfect people to join me for a book talk. I've got a librarian here. We've got Tiffany Walsh. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey, how are you doing, Erika?
Great. I'm so glad you can join us for this. I knew you would definitely love a topic about books. So.
Indeed.
Good. And we also have a book lover and a book author with us today. We have Michele Faehnle. She's author with Emily Jaminet. They've authored Divine Mercy for Moms. Hey, Michele, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on again. It's fun to see everybody's faces again.
It is. I love talking to both of you. I know I've had both of you on the Hangout before. I don't remember. Have we all three been together before?
No.
Okay. Well, great. Well, Tiffany, meet Michele. Michele, meet Tiffany.
And I just finished your book, so.
Oh, thanks. I saw it on your on your blog. I was so excited.
Yeah, it was my book of the month, my book club book.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So did you do it with other people? Did you read it with others?
Yeah, I'm just now changing up the format. So the way that I read this book, Divine Mercy for Moms, as well as the books I've been reviewing in the past, is that I will put up a list with dates of when I'm going to have a book finished and when I'm going to review it on my blog. So with Divine Mercy for Moms, it's coming up, I believe, next Wednesday that I'm going to be talking about it. And so other people can read along if they like. And, of course, I encourage them to do so. And then, in the comments, put down their impressions. And what I'm going to do coming up here is because a lot of people would use my book club list as a list of books to put on their wish list or to get from the library, that they would wait until I would review it to see whether or not they wanted to pursue it or not, which is great. I mean, I'm glad that worked for them. But I really wanted people to be reading along with me. So starting next month, we've moved to a format where I have them vote on the book. So I don't have total power anymore. Because I would just pick what I wanted to read. So now I'm letting them, I'll have a couple of fiction options and a couple of nonfiction options, both spiritual and secular, and let them pick. And so there's a poll going on right now, and we'll see what everybody has chosen next week. And then I've gotten some interest in reading it at the same time now that everybody feels like they're participating a little bit more in the selection process. So then we'll read it, and I'm thinking about emulating Catholic Mom's model of reading the book in segments rather than all at one time in their book club, because I think that's a little bit less intimidating for people. Like, okay, so the first 3 chapters or however we want to divide it up, we'll review in May, and then we'll talk about the second half of the book in June. And so it just gives people more time, because I think there's a concern amongst people with similar vocations to us that they're not going to have enough reading time. So
right.
Yeah. So so we'll see how that goes, but that's sort of where we're at. But it's really a lot of fun. I love to read, obviously, and it is nice to have a conversation and to feel a part of a community of people who are reading the same thing, and that you can then bounce your ideas off of each other and your impressions.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. Well, that's really cool. So, Michele, have you guys had a lot of people doing the book study with your book?
Yeah, we had 32 groups that did it over Lent, so that was really exciting. They all really enjoyed it. In fact, I just got a note from my friend down in Atlanta, and they were like the super moms, because not only did they do our book, they also did a book by Pope Francis on mercy, and then every other week they did a work of mercy as their group. So one week they wrote letters to the prisoners on death row, and then the next week they made food and delivered it to the homeless on Divine Mercy Sunday, and then next week they're all going to visit the Holy Doors at the Archdiocese together as a group. So it's been really great. Another mom's group, they're a homeschooling group, and they decided to start a family holy hour. So it's been really neat. The groups have, formed a lot of community with each other, because some of them didn't know other moms in their, their parish or their little groups. So they've gotten to know other moms, and they're doing things together, works of mercy. So that's really been awesome.
That's so great. Well, those are some great fruits that have come out of that. So I'm sure that makes you feel good about all the time you put into writing it.
Yes. It's always a pleasure when you hear from someone that it touched somebody, or, it's helped change their life, or so that's the best part about writing, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love about books too. I've always been a book lover. I can't really imagine not liking books. So I'm really sorry to anyone out there who's not a book lover. I just can't relate. I've tried. It's just so hard to me. I can't even imagine a world without books or, reading some sort of a writing. So for me, books, they aren't just good books anyways. They're not just something that I read and get over. They become almost a part of me, and they influence me. They inspire me. They just kind of give me a whole different outlook sometimes on life, and it's amazing what can come out of reading a book. So things like that or other things. But
I know. I wonder, is there books in heaven? Because I sure hope so.
Yes, definitely. Well, I always think of that the Gospel of John, how it starts out with, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. So yes, in a way, there will be reading.
What a great book.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Well, we have just like 40 minutes, so I know we can talk about books probably all day. So I'm going to try and give us time for each of us. What I asked Tiffany and Michele to do, I know this is really difficult, but I asked them to just pick one favorite from 3 different categories. So I asked them to pick a favorite from a fiction book that they really love, a nonfiction, and a spiritual read. I know that probably was difficult for you guys. Were you able to narrow it down pretty easily?
It took a few minutes. I had to really look through, and I've changed the way that I read, so that, in a way that I'm about to explain, influenced how I chose the books. Obviously, I have a huge bookcase at home, and I like to own copies of all of my very, very favorites. Mm-hmm. So if I read something from the library, I would buy a copy after so I could go back and reread it. But now I read almost exclusively on my Kindle because of my eyesight. So
yes, I understand.
Yeah, so I had to really think about, because the Kindle is fantastic, but it's also like once I read something, it's just poof into the cloud, and I have no idea what's in there anymore. I know I can go and look in my account, but what I had to do was I thought, well, these are my like really stable original favorites, the ones I own in print. So I went through there and just tried to be as spontaneous as I could in terms of what comes to mind when I think about those categories that you listed, and pulled them off the shelf so that I could have them. There is something nice about tangibly holding a print book that just evokes all of the feelings and memories of when you were reading it. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to have the print ones to bring in, and I knew that they were definitely favorites if I owned print copies, so that's how I did my selection.
Yeah, how about you, Michele?
For me, when I love a book, I end up buying like a ton of copies and giving it away. Like that's how we go. So you'll see like two of the 3 books that I have for today, I have bought tons of copies of and have been over the years handing them out because they've been so impactful on my life that I knew they would help other people. And sometimes you can tell people, oh, you should get this book, and they won't do it, right? So you have to make it easy for them and say, here this book. If you read it, I promise it will change your life. So
yeah,
I had 2 of the 3 were like that, and the fiction was the hardest for me because I don't read a ton of fiction, and I don't, a lot of it, right, is like Tiffany said, on my Kindle. So I wanted one I had a hard copy in, but then as I looked through my bookshelf, I knew the right one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like what you said, Tiffany, about that you really like it if you own a print copy, and I kind of did the same thing. 2 of the books that I have for today, I have. Another book I thought I had, I must have lent it out, and who knows where it went. So funny, when I mentioned it, I'll have to ask if anyone has my book. I have a bad habit of lending them out without remembering who I lent them to. But for me, I also think books that are my favorite, I don't know if you've ever done this, sorry if I'm too much of a nerd for admitting this, but I sometimes hug my books. They're just so good that everything about them just brings on such wonderful memories of the experience of what you read. They just mean so much to me that I want to hug them. So if I hug a book, then you'll know it's definitely a favorite of mine. So.
I love the way books smell, that new book smell. Yeah. There's something about it. It just brings in all of your senses, so I understand.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. So, well, let's get right into it. So I'm trying to decide which one we should start with. Well, let's start with spiritual read, and then we'll kind of go from there. So Michele, I'm going to let you go first. So what's your favorite spiritual book that you've read?
As you can tell by this beaten and battered cover. Mine is Consoling the Heart of Jesus by Father Michael Gately. And this is, he jokes with me because he's like, wow, you have a first edition. I mean, I bought it like, pre-ordered this, and this is something I never, ever let go of. This is one of the books I bought hundreds of copies of and given to people, and if you look through it, it is like highlighted and underlined, and my kids have drawn in it, and it was a huge part of just really a spiritual transformation for me about, I think about in 2010 when it came out, and I have read it at least 20 times, and I try to really read it a lot every Lent because it's been such a powerful read for me. So I have just, I can't say enough good things about it. It's a retreat in a book. So you can do it over a long period like Lent, or you can do it actually just in a weekend. If you're going on retreat, you take it with you. And it looks super thick, but actually only the first 195 pages are the actual retreat, and then there's appendices. And actually the appendix 1 is all about spiritual discernment, and that's probably, I thought, even better than the book. If you can believe an appendix could be better than the book. And then in the back, there's selections from the Diary of St. Faustina, because, of course, I'm a St. Faustina lover, so that is another great part of the book. So you've got 3 pieces in this book, and it's, wow, that's all I can say. It's just really, really an awesome, awesome read.
That's cool. Can you hold the cover up a little? I want to see the picture on it. It looks like a really beautiful picture. Okay.
Father Gately said, so the story, if anybody know who Father Gately is, he was dating this really cute girl in college, and her name was Blanche. No, not me. Her name was Blanche, and he had to tell her, he had this vocation, and it turns out she became a religious sister in a convent in France, and so she spends her whole life now praying for him, and he is this awesome, priest that is just preaching it and bringing the gospel to everyone and divine mercy and Marian consecration. And he said that Blanche sent him this picture, so he knew it was perfect for the cover of the book.
Because I have read 33 Days to Morning Glory, and I just finished on Divine Mercy Sunday 33 Days to Merciful Love. Yes. And I have never read this one. I need to put this on my list.
Absolutely you do. 33 Days to Merciful Love has a lot taken from this. So if you love that, you will love it.
Yeah.
You will love this book, and it is powerful.
So for the, sorry to interrupt you, for the audio listeners, the cover is beautiful. It has Jesus on the cross, and then there's a baby? Is that? Yeah,
it's a little baby who is reaching up with his right hand. He's touching Christ, like right by his ear, like he's kissing him on the nose. Oh. And you can see Christ's heart is radiating, like it's glowing, and then the rays are coming out of his heart.
Oh, okay, I see.
The red and the pale rays are coming from Christ's heart. And what's really funny is I love this book, and I had forgotten when I went home. My parents have an image that is very, very, very similar that they got on pilgrimage one year, and they put it in all the kids' bedrooms. And I went home and looked at my bedroom, and it was hanging on the wall. I'm like, oh, it is very, I think this one was a little bit edited, but it was probably from the original image that I had it in my room probably for 20 years.
Yeah. So I've been kind of curious about this book, because I think you recommended it to me a while back, and I've had other people say that it's great. How does it differ than 33 Days to Morning Glory? Like, is it is 33 Days is a more condensed version of that, or are they two completely different books?
So since 33 Days to Morning Glory is the Marian consecration, and 33 Days to Merciful Love is the consecration to divine mercy. So this is just about the whole topic of consoling the heart of Jesus, which is really stemming from Mother Teresa and the I thirst, how Jesus thirsts from the cross, and how we can really console Jesus. And now we often think about the other way around, right? Jesus is consoling us when we're going through, but how when we enter into Christ's passion and by our meditation, and that it's a whole new way of looking at prayer. Emily, my co-author, and I always say, like, we feel like before, when you go to the beach and like the tide goes out and there's those big puddles of warm water, and your kids love to play in those little safe little waters, and that's kind of where we were spiritually, but God was calling us to this deeper prayer life and into the actual ocean, and that's what this book, we felt, called us into the ocean. And there was so many things. I mean, I can't tell you how many things I have underlined and highlighted, and just he teaches you just little ways to incorporate prayer for a busy person all around your day. He takes us from, saying one idea he gives us is the Stations of the Cross, right? That we should meditate on Christ's Passion year long, not just during Lent. So pick one station a day and keep that as a little in the back of your mind as you're meditating throughout the whole day. He has a special prayer, a special morning offering, which I actually, along with my other sync prayer for Divine Mercy for Moms, I have that one in my sync. I pray every day. And he has a great examination of conscience. It's called Baker, where you go through your blessings. And then after you talk about first, of course, your blessings, you ask God for special grace from the Holy Spirit to recognize your sins. K stands for kill, because you want our sins killed and crucified Jesus. So we look at the day, look throughout our day and recognize our sins. E stands for embrace, allows Jesus to embrace us as sinners as we are, and R stands for resolution. So this is we learn for how to make a positive resolution and make a change in your life. Mm-hmm. So those are just simple examples of how he has probably the best examination of conscience in here that I have ever read. And if you read it, you're like, oh, I got a lot to work on. But it is so wonderful. Beautiful. Really, it was one of those books that the first time I bought 20 copies before I even read it. And I thought, what did I just do? My husband's going to kill me. And then I have bought since then probably at least 100 copies. And
oh my goodness.
People. And there is study along with it. You can get, Father Gately has now done a study and videos. So it's really great because, he does a great job in his videos. He doesn't regurgitate what's in the book. He's got more beautiful stories. So I would definitely recommend it too as a study group. It's
wow. This sounds like exactly what I've been looking for a lot. You actually used certain words that have been in my interior prayer life that no one else could have known. So it's really interesting that you said that. So, okay, God, finally, I hear you. I will read the book. Okay.
I think if you have the Formed, his videos are in the Formed program. If you have Formed, it's like the online Netflix for Catholic stuff.
Oh. Okay.
And that's, I know they have for sure 33 Days of Morning Glory. And I think these videos are on there too. So.
What is that called? Formed,
FORMD.org. Formed.
Okay, I'll put that in our show notes too. That sounds cool. All right, Tiffany, how about you? What's your favorite spiritual book that you've read?
So I'm a cradle Catholic, and when I was in my early 20s, I was, somewhat apathetic in my faith, and I had this huge, I don't even know what you want to call it. I can't technically call it a reversion experience because I never left the church, so I wasn't really coming back. But I had this huge version experience, or some new word that we have to come up with here. And I went, unsurprisingly, to the bookstore because I was just thirsting for information. My heart was changed, and I started praying the rosary again, and I started watching Mother Angelica on EWTN. This was the days before social media. So, that was just how you got most of your information. I thought I would like to read up on my faith. I was craving this relationship, obviously, with our Lord, but I wanted to get lots of research in as to what exactly the faith was that I had been formed in. And so I was living in New York City at the time, and they had this gigantic Barnes & Noble in Midtown Manhattan, and I loved it because you could go up to the top level, was a cafe up there, and I would bring a huge pile of books up there and sit there and then decide which ones I was going to buy and have tea and,
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I found in that Barnes & Noble that within their religion section, they actually had a sub-Catholicism section. And so I was, this really appealed to my librarian sensibilities of organization. So, I got this whole pile of books and brought it up with me. And I had a book on Marian apparitions, I remember, because Mary was so important in my life throughout my childhood faith life. And so I ended up getting that book. And I got a couple of others, two of which I have here with me today. And so the first one is the original book in the Surprised by Truth series. And the reason that this book appealed to me so much is that as a cradle Catholic, I had never read any conversion stories before of people who were seeing the Catholic faith through completely new eyes, and their reasons for making a very dramatic change in their life, changing from one religious affiliation to another. And one of the things about this book that really appealed to me is that, I mean, it's not terribly, terribly thick, as you can see, but it only has 10 or 11 stories in it. And so therefore, the stories are a decent length. They're not just very short. So you actually have time for the authors of each of these stories to give some discussion about their background and how they were raised and what they used to think about the Catholic Church, and then what happened in their life that made them have this very dramatic change in their thinking and consider it and their full experience of how they came into the church. And that made a huge impact on me because I have a very short attention span. And I have a hard time reading very deep spiritual books because my mind is just in 100 different directions and I get distracted. And, I feel like I've read a few pages, but I haven't absorbed anything. And personal stories like this are so appealing to me because I can relate to them. I feel so connected to the personal challenges and struggles that the people are relating. And so for me to really absorb a lot of spiritual lessons, I like them being couched in a personal testimony like that. It's like I'm able to understand it and absorb it so much better. So that book had a huge impact on my life.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And that's by Scott Hahn, right?
Yeah, well, he wrote the foreword in it, and it was edited by Patrick Madrid.
Oh, okay.
So they were both a part of the series because there are other books in the series as well. So yeah, and I'm not sure if Dr. Hahn at some point was the editor, maybe of one of the volumes. That could be, but I know Patrick Madrid is the original editor. But yeah, it was just so eye-opening. Like all of a sudden, these people are talking about specific Bible verses. It's like, oh yeah, I've never read the Bible. Aside from obviously hearing it at Mass, but then it caused me to recognize that, yeah, I was hearing it every week at Mass. And it is just a shocking and humbling thing to realize that throughout my teenage years, so this is even at the time I was confirmed and after, I'm hearing in Mass about these letters from Paul to the Corinthians. Yeah, that's the Bible. I didn't really realize that. I just never took the time to fully make my faith my own and to understand what my parents and teachers were trying to transmit me because my heart just wasn't fully opened to it. And so when I started reading these stories in Surprised by Truth, and it's like, oh, I really need to open this up, open up the Bible and look at what they're saying, and open up the Catechism and read about why I have these feelings that I have always had about, say, the pro-life cause or about marriage, and those things seemed very intuitive to me. So, I really should find out exactly the roots of all of these things then, so that you can more fully live out those things in your life and discuss them with people if others should ask you about them. And so hearing converts talk about them really just brought this fresh new perspective into my life. Like, oh, yeah, I can do these things too. Just because I've been a Catholic my whole life doesn't mean I'm not responsible for understanding and reading Scripture and understanding more about my faith and what happens at Mass, what we're doing every week when we go there. So I just really, really love the format of these books because I've read other conversion story books that either were very, very short, so contained like dozens of short stories that just didn't give the depth that I was looking for, or and sometimes the whole books about one person's conversion story are very good, don't get me wrong, but it was really nice to get like 10 different perspectives in there, so 10 different backgrounds, 10 different types of things going on in different people's lives. That I could potentially relate to. And so, yeah, I absolutely love that series.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to have to add that to my list also. That sounds wonderful.
Compelling.
Well, go ahead. I think that I like what you're saying, that sometimes if you're going through not necessarily a faith crisis, but just kind of a re-questioning and reanalyzing, it is helpful to kind of look and see what other people what conclusions they've come up with, and it really helps me anyways to put together my own thought process too. So, well, that sounds like a great book. Well, I'm going to quickly just mention my book, and then we'll kind of and I saw I own it, but I could not find it. So it's so hard. I want to put a disclaimer out there. When I say the word favorite, I have so many favorites. So I just picked the ones that I could think of right now. So I picked Searching for and Maintaining Peace. A Small Treatise on Peace of Heart by Father Jacques Philippe. And he has a lot of really great books. I've read the Holy Spirit one, but the Peace one has been my favorite. It's just a really small little booklet, and it just takes you, it's kind of like what you're saying, Michelle, as far as like a retreat. It's like a little mini retreat. If you read it like once, maybe in the morning or in the evening or maybe in the afternoon, it's very easy to just sit down and read a page or two. And it really does exactly what it says. It brings peace back into my heart. And I've read it a few times, and every time I read it, I'm like, why didn't I sit down and read this earlier? I can't even really tell you what specifically it is that I like about it, except for the fact that it really does bring peace back into my life, and it helps me remember kind of to rebalance myself and refocus myself on Christ and on trusting Him with everything. And when we can fully trust in Christ, no matter what is happening, then we are able to find peace. It's not necessarily that the bad stuff stops happening. It's that we are able to trust God with it and then therefore deal with it more peacefully. So I would highly recommend that one to anyone. Anyone who is experiencing anxiety or just worrying about something, or maybe something has happened to you and you're not feeling very peaceful, check out this book. So, all right. Well, I'm going to head on to our next category. Should we do nonfiction or fiction next? What do you guys think?
Do fiction.
Yeah.
Fiction? Okay. All right. Well, Tiffany, we'll start with you this time. What's your favorite fiction?
So I read a lot of fiction. And most of it nowadays, actually about 100% of it nowadays, so for the past 3 to 5 years, is on my Kindle. But I do own a good number in print from my original favorites, and my favorite genre within fiction is what I call cozy fiction. So this is going to be, generally, they're mystery-based, and they're set around a certain hobby or activity that has a sense of community. So I'm a knitter and a crocheter, so I glommed onto this Seaside Knitters series by Sally Goldenbaum, and the first book in the series is called Death by Cashmere. And what I love about these types of cozy fiction books is, like you were saying, Erika, at the beginning of the show, about how books they're so meaningful to us because it's like we can become a part of that world while we're reading them, and that's why I enjoy cozy fiction, because I want to, go live in that yarn shop with a group of knitters, and while they talk every Friday night over their glasses of wine and they're knitting about what's going on in their life and the challenges and the joys that they're experiencing, and it's just so, like the genre would indicate, it gives you a cozy feeling. A cozy feeling of being a part of something that's just really warm and comfortable. So this is about a New England town, a small New England town, where a young woman who, I want to say maybe she was born in the town, but at any rate, she had gone off to the big city and then comes back as an adult, disillusioned with her law career. And she decides to open up a yarn shop in this small seaside town where some of her family still lived, coming off of a bad relationship. And so, she's opening up this yarn shop, and then other women are learning how to knit and come and join her little knitting circle. And of course, there's all these terrible murders that happen so that they have something to solve. It's part of it. But yeah, I mean, they are just as a place you want to be. And so there's the Seaside Knitters, but I've read so many of these types of books. So I've also read a quilt series about the first book is called The Quilter's Apprentice, I believe, and the author's name is Rachel, I think her first name is Rachel Cheverini, and they're surrounding a quilting retreat.
Ooh,
A group of women who learn how to quilt. And I've seen, ballroom dance mysteries. I've seen specifically crochet mysteries, so not knitting, also crochet. There's cross-stitch mysteries. I mean, any craft or hobby that you can imagine has a cozy mystery series associated with it. So if there's something that you enjoy, you can look on Amazon and find a series of mysteries that will involve that hobby and a group of women who are helping each other out and solve a mystery and just deal with life's burdens. And it's just nice to sort of relax with them when you pick up a book like that.
That sounds just so wonderfully serene and peaceful sounding. Just to, like you said, this I love your the way you describe it as a cozy fiction. That's a really great way to put fiction like that. Because, yeah, you can just kind of cozy up, and it's just comfortable. You don't have to think about it too hard, and you can just really enjoy it. That sounds like a great book. There was another book I read. I was trying to remember while you're talking it, because what you're saying sounds really similar to this other one. Maybe it is that one, but it's about knitting. Maybe it's like Knit To. I can't remember now, but it was very similar, where she opened up a yarn store, and there's
I know what you're talking about.
different.
It was British, though. I think it was wasn't it set in England?
Oh, I think maybe it's been a few years, but I remember really enjoying it. At the time, I want to say I was an avid knitter. That doesn't mean I was good. It just means that I was always knitting, whether it turned out well or not. That's besides the question, but I really enjoyed it at the time because I really understood what they were talking about when they're like knit to, purl to, and all these different things. So that sounds like a wonderful summer read, or even just like a nice day where it's just quiet at home. You can maybe hang out. So great.
Yeah, I'll send you the info for the quilt. Her name is not Rachel, it's Jennifer. Her first name is Jennifer, the author Shivering. I'll send you that, and I know the book you're talking about, but I can't think of the title, so I'll find it and send it to you for the show notes.
Okay, that sounds great. So, and then maybe I'll remember it too. So, well, I'll go ahead and mention my fiction books. I know, Michelle, you said you don't like them as much, so I'll go next, and we'll let you finish it up. I had a really hard time. When I think fiction is probably my favorite genre. That word is so fun to say, genre. Anyway, sorry. It's my favorite genre of reading. When I think about fiction, I think about books like Anne of Avonlea, Anne of Green Gables, and Hannah Coulter, and I don't know, even like The Help is kind of it's based on sort of true story, but I love books like that just take you on this wild adventure, and they bring you through this kind of, I don't know, just a dream world for a little bit. It's so nice to just escape and kind of get into someone else's story and not really feel responsible for it at all. So, but aside from those books I mentioned, I picked, for my favorite today, I picked A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. And I have it, but it's on my kitchen table. If I go gadget my arm, I could probably reach it. But I was trying to read it real quick before we got on the show today because I love it, but I haven't read it for a few years. So I was kind of trying to remember some of it. But it takes place, so the author, Betty Smith, she grew up in Brooklyn during like the 1930s, 1940s, kind of around right before World War I. There was a lot of, kind of Depression era, and so the main character's name is Francie Nolan, and she's, at the time the book starts, she's 11 years old, and it follows her through this kind of impoverished life in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, through till she's about 17, and she's got a couple parents and a brother, and it's just a really interesting read. So she's kind of living in this impoverished place, and her dad struggles with alcoholism, and so her mother kind of loses a lot of her sensitive side to kind of raise everybody. But Francie is just this very ambitious and creative, imaginative girl, and she loves to read. So that might be right there why I like the book so much, because I feel like I can relate to her a lot. She kind of escapes this real world that she lives in by reading about other worlds that are, a bit easier, but at the same time, she still lets her life teach her these valuable lessons. Like, she kind of realizes that she's living in a book at the same time that she's reading books, and it's just a wonderful book about growing up in poverty, but yet kind of overcoming that and not letting her poverty define her, so to say. And it's full of a lot of really neat, kind of old-fashioned wisdom that's still very good wisdom for today. So I could talk forever about it, but I won't. So I highly recommend it. Put it on your summer reading list. I promise you'll love it. I'm probably going to read it again. I opened it up today just to kind of refresh, and I think I'll probably end up continuing to read it. So So I love it, but I don't want to take up all our time. So Michele, do you have any favorite fiction books that you like to share?
Mine, and I kind of cheated because this is a historical fiction, so it's a little bit nonfiction, and it's called The Spear. It's by Louis de Wohl. It's actually from 1955. It was the original edition, but this is about Cassius Longinus, the soldier who pierced Christ's side. But it's actually, a fiction read about his whole life before he gets to the crucifixion. And I just, I'm not really a historical fiction reader, but a few years ago, Sarah Reinhardt, who I know is a big Catholic mom writer, started a book club, and her only rule was we can read only fiction. So for about 2 years, every month we read a different fiction read, and I had read another book by Louis de Wohl about St. Catherine of Siena, and I had loved it. So we read The Spear, and it was over vacation. I remember I was down in North Carolina, and every day while my daughter napped, I read this, and it was really fascinating just what they thought of. He has a great story about really the woman caught in adultery and how she was really tied in with this soldier, and how eventually the whole thing leads about to his conversion, because he is there, with Christ and it's kind of a little bit of a gladiator scene. I read it and I'm like, I swear Gladiator stole from The Spear, because this is the same thing that happened in that movie. But it was a really great read, and I really I think all Louis de Wohl's books have been popular for a long time, obviously, 50-something years, and he has them about a lot of different saints, so they're inspirational, and of course fiction is kind of fun too. They're, somewhat truth, but have some other ideas out there that would have happened. So it was a neat read.
Yeah, I read that book a few years ago, and I really liked it. So I would say yes, definitely a good. I like that one during Lent. If you're looking for a fiction book to read during Lent, you can read it all the time. That's a good one. So. All right. Well, we've got just a little bit of time left. I don't want to go over too much because I know you both have different places you need to get to. So let's move on to nonfiction. So Michele, we'll kind of let you go ahead and round out that since you're.
I'll make it quick, right? So we got a few. So I picked. This is a brand new book. It's called The Shed That Fed a Million Children by Magnus McFarlane Barrow, and he is the founder of Mary's Meals, which is an international organization that feeds. Oops, I'm in the. Go this way, okay. 1.1 million children a day, and it started out of his father's shed in his backyard. So he originally wanted to do relief aid for the war in Bosnia, so he asked his dad to borrow his shed, and people came and brought things to the shed, and he drove them down to Bosnia, and when he returned from that trip, the shed was full again. So each chapter of this book, he goes to a different, basically how he got into a different area of the world and bringing relief. So it's turned into feeding children a hot meal a day in conjunction with an education, and they do it for less than 10 cents a day. And I heard about this because several years ago I heard about Magnus from another conference planner, since I plan our Catholic Women's Conference, and she said he was such an amazing speaker at their conference that I had to bring him in. And then as I was researching Divine Mercy for Moms, I kind of came across this idea again in his video, Child 31. And then he just came out with this book this year. And it's another one of those books that I've already bought like 20 copies and handed out. And it makes you think a lot about how we live our lives here in America. And, one of the stories in this book, I remember that every family, I can't remember what country it is, that they have to pack up out of their houses and sleep in the church every night for fear of being attacked and stolen. And, we are so blessed. And he does so much amazing good. And, he was not a dignitary. He was not anybody famous. He was a fisherman in Scotland. And for him to take this idea and be one of the biggest humanitarians in our modern day, it's an awesome read, and I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. I will definitely. Gosh, I'm going to have all sorts of books to read now. So
over the summer, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, Tiffany, what about you? What's your favorite nonfiction?
So this is one of my favorite books of all time, and it's another one that I got at Barnes & Noble that day I was talking about when I went. Okay.
That sounds like it was a wonderful day.
It was very fruitful. So this book is now out of print, unfortunately, but you can still get it used on Amazon Marketplace, which is where I got this. Well, no. You know what happened? I lent it to somebody, and my original copy from Barnes & Noble, and then I never got it back, so I bought another one. That shows you how dedicated I am, because I did get this one from the marketplace. It's like, well, what happened? Because I know I got it at Barnes & Noble. So this is called The New Men Inside the Vatican's Elite School for American Priests by Brian Murphy. And like I've been describing, I like this whole personal story thing with regard to spiritual reading. And this is the story of an academic year at the North American College in Rome. And at the time, this was back in the 90s, Timothy Dolan was their rector. So this was before he was a Monsignor at the time. And so I always remembered his name. And when he came up through the ranks, when he came back to this, I was like, I remember him from The New Men. And it's such a fascinating look. Obviously, for a man discerning the priesthood, this would be a great book to read. It's about, they spotlight between 5 and 6 different seminarians from the class that year. They're at first year at the seminary, and about their struggles with, is this really my vocation? And it is just a gripping read, because you're not really sure if all of them are going to stay or not in the program. And so, and it has, and they all are coming from a completely different experience. There was one guy who really thought he was going to get married, but then felt this call, came back to his faith, and, wound up in Rome. Somebody who had a childhood, had always wanted to be a priest, and he was one of a set of twins, and his twin brother was there as well. And so there was a question as to, like, well, the other twin, is he there just because he feels this bond with his brother, that they should have the same vocation because they're identical twins? Or, how strong is one's vocation over the other? There was one who came from North Dakota, and he was so strongly connected to his land, his family home in North Dakota. He really was struggling with, am I called to be a diocesan priest, which is what I'm studying to do right now, or am I called to be a monk? Because there was a monastery up near where his family lived in North Dakota, and they worked the land, and he thought they were Benedictines, and he thought maybe that's more of a calling because of their charism to work with the land as part of living in community in the monastery. And so he wasn't sure if he was going to continue on, because he may have wanted to go join that community. And it was so interesting to me. So obviously, as somebody who was not discerning a call to the priesthood by any stretch of the imagination, it was still, I think, a powerful book just to read about discernment. So regardless of your vocation or prospective vocation, because at the time I wasn't married or anything like that yet, I wanted to be, but you don't know how God is going to lead your life, if you're going to be called to a single life, or if you're going to find somebody to marry and that's going to end up working out that way, or what have you. So it just was such an interesting thing to see. Everybody, to some extent, goes through this process of, what am I supposed to do? What is God calling me to do with my life? And I think it's this thing, but now that I'm getting into it a little more, is it actually that thing? Or maybe it's something else? And then it's something else. No, maybe it's that first thing again. I think we can all relate to that. And just the way that the author he's a journalist, and the way that he just, elicits the real raw feelings and emotions of the men going through this very challenging year abroad, away from their families, away from, like, the woman they had thought they were going to marry, depending. It was, I just really, really enjoy it. And I've reread that book at least a half a dozen times. So, like I said, it's not in print anymore, so you'd have to get it, but it is available through used sellers, including Amazon Marketplace. So I would recommend reading it.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I've never read a book like that before. It sounds like that might be a good book for, would you say, like, parents of their, like, sons who are going through seminary? Do you think that they would enjoy that?
I definitely think so.
Yeah, I have a couple friends whose sons are in the seminary, and I'm sure you'd think, oh, they're probably really happy, but there's so many questions that go into whether you're going to or not, and so yeah, that sounds really fascinating. So, well, I know we're.
Go ahead, Michelle. There's a video series. It's called God or the Girl, and I think it was A&E or something that put it on, and it was kind of like that. They had them going through their journey of, how they were discerning to become a priest or the girl.
That sounds like an interesting show. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that I've kind of kept you guys over. I know, Michelle, you have to go pick up kids at 3, or?
Yeah, so I have a couple more minutes, so tell us you want to catch up.
Well, I'll just mention my nonfiction real quick. And, okay, Tiffany, tell me, does autobiography count as nonfiction?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I wasn't sure. So for my it was hard for me to choose between A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, my other favorite story is called, or book is called A Severe Mercy by Sheldon Vanauken. I think that's how you say his name. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have you guys heard of this book?
I have it, and I picked it up like multiple times, and I've never finished it, so I need to. Okay. I know everyone talks about how much they love it.
Yes. Well, I read it many years ago, but it's forever been a permanent part of me. So I need to reread it. I'm a little scared if I reread it that I won't like it as much, but I remember that I really liked it when I read it. So we'll just keep that. We'll keep it there. It's a story about Sheldon Vanauken. He became friends with C.S. Lewis later in life, so a lot of people kind of relate those two together. But it's kind of a story about love and faith and grief, and it's just really, it covers all of that. So it kind of starts with him and his wife's, what he calls their pagan love and their pagan days before they embraced Christianity. And so it kind of goes to this whole part about their love before they became Christians, and then it transforms into this Christian transition between this pagan living to this Christian living, and kind of the tensions that kind of arose in their marriage from that. And then I don't want to give away too much, but there is some grief that comes in this story, and so it's really very interesting just watching his all the different developments in how he processes from going from paganism to Christianity to then having to fully trust in this a new God to him in a way because of this grief he has to go through. And it's a really good story, but I don't think everyone can. You kind of have to be in a certain place, and maybe you've had to experience certain things in life to really appreciate it. So, but I really love it. And again, we could talk about it forever and ever, but I don't want to keep you too long. And I know everyone's probably like, are they going to stop talking about books forever? So I want to thank Tiffany, thank you, Michelle, so much for joining me today, talking about books. And hopefully some of these books will be ones that our listeners and viewers might try reading and enjoying. And if you do, we'd love to hear how you like them. So do you guys have any other parting words before we go?
Yeah, join a book club. Do a book club especially if you like to read. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I have the book club at my blog. If you want to go vote on a book, there's a poll up right now, and it's lifeofacatholiclibrarian.com. And yeah, so probably at least once a month, I'm going to be talking about books on there. So.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Thank you.
Yeah. And the Catholic Mom has a great book club too. I love the seasonal book clubs that they do.
Definitely. Yes, I agree. Thanks for putting that plug in. So, yeah, I will have all of this in our show notes. So if you were listening to this and you're hoping that you can find a place where all of this is written down, just go to CatholicMom.com and look under the CM Hangout tab. And then this is episode 23. So, and just look for Book Love is what it's called. So hopefully you'll be able to find everything in there. And if there's something that I forgot to include, just comment or send us an email to me, Erika, which is at onesimplemama@gmail.com. And we love hearing comments. We would love to hear what your favorite books are, or any other recommended readings that you have for us. So, all right. Well, thanks again, Michelle and Tiffany. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a wonderful week. And we'll see everyone on the next Catholic Mom CM Hangout next time.